Hi, I'm Dave Coach. Welcome back to my channel. Today, we're going to talk about that one thing that's probably shocking you the most, and that's when you get the quote for what your Airbnb photography is going to cost. You probably started looking at photographers, and you probably started looking at the sort of photographer that shoots real estate photography, and you see them in the $100, $200, $300 range, and then somebody sends you a quote for Airbnb, and you're in the $500, $600, $800 range, and you're like, it's just pictures of my property. What's the difference here? Well, there's a big difference, and there's a lot of difference. And let's go over what some of those things that contribute to that increase of cost could be. The first thing, and it's kind of a negative value thing, but the first thing you need to look at is what is the cost to you to not get better photography. If you are happy with where you are in the market, if you're happy with the number of rentals that you get per month, you know what? Probably better photography is not something that you need to do. If you are wanting to increase your number of rentals, if you're wanting to increase your perceived value in the market, then definitely photography is something that you need to do, or at least look at. And I think that's the first thing you'll need to look at yourself, is to look inward and decide whether you're happy with the photographs that you have, whether they're portraying you in the market on Airbnb, where you want to be positioned, and whether you are getting enough business from your current media. So one of the things right off the bat you're paying for is just the cost of getting that photography done. When you look at an MLS photographer, they are typically going to come in and be on site for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, something like that. They run through the house, shoot pictures of each room, and they're on their way. They send the images off to be edited. They turn around the next morning, and that's it. There's not as much cost involved in that as there is in luxury Airbnb photography. For one thing, a good Airbnb photographer is going to come in and spend 2 to 3 hours in that room or in that location and shooting that. They're going to spend the time to make sure that they're getting the right angles for the sun at the different points of the day. And all that takes time, and you know the old expression, time is money. But more than that is the editing phase, and that's the second part. Like I said, a lot of the MLS things get sent off to an editor, get turned around overnight and sent back, and those are pretty much a gist mill of shooting the images in and popping them out. There's not a whole lot of cost in that. When I do Airbnb photography photos, I do them all myself. I will spend 3, 4, 5 days editing a typical Airbnb, and it's hours and hours of work to get them to look right. And that's what's going to set your images apart in the marketplace, is that time spent editing and perfecting those images. And again, time is money, and the more time spent editing, the higher the cost. Another thing you have to look at is the experience level of the photographer you're hiring. When somebody first starts in the market, while they can probably still shoot an Airbnb, they're probably not your best choice. When you see the photography that stands out, you're going to find that those are people with 3, 5, 7, 10 years experience in the field. And those people don't work cheap either. It's like, going, let's say going to a lawyer. The beginning lawyers you can get relatively cheaply, and they can do things like, a trademark search or something like that. But when you've got, a giant case and everything is on the line, you go for the senior partners, you're going to pay a lot more for them. Same with photography. Many times when I'm shooting a property, I'll go back 2, 3, 4 times to get Twilights, to get other setups, to do other things like that. And that has a cost that affects the final price of your pictures also. Minor, but it's there. The gear that I come in with has a certain cost, and that value of having that gear has a cost that is passed on to someone like you who hires me too. If you have a photographer, and I have seen this, I saw this in a YouTube video of somebody showing how to shoot an Airbnb. And they literally went in and they had no tripod. All they had was a camera, and they were sitting there shooting different rooms. And that may be the level of photography that some people need. And, you know, that's fine. You should not be paying me if that's the level of photography that you need. If you're renting a room for $30 a night, I am probably not your first or best choice. But when you've got a whole property that you want to rent, and you want to present that at the highest level possible, when somebody comes in without a tripod or without lights or without the appropriate gear, you kind of know maybe they're not the person that you want for a high level shoot. So you have to know that that's going to cost a little bit more too. The gear that we use is not cheap, and setting it up and tearing it down and using it, and the time it took to learn how to use it properly, all rolls into the cost of the photography. I already touched on the editing. When I'm at your property, I may spend 2 to 4 hours shooting it. What you don't see is the 4 to 8 hours or maybe even more editing. That's a hidden cost that you don't see, but that definitely is a premium cost that you're paying for a very good luxury Airbnb photographer. Remember, this is not just about getting pictures. If this were just about getting pictures, then hire the guy with no tripod or go in with your iPhone. But you're not going to get superior results with those. The idea is you're not paying for someone to take pictures. You're paying for someone to deliver results. It's a service that involves pictures. And when you look at it that way, you hire a professional who's going to deliver those results, and you're going to pay a premium for that level of experience, quality, and attention. What is your brand? Who are you selling to on Airbnb? Who are you trying to rent to? If you have weak visuals, you're probably selling to the bargain hunters. And, you know, there is a market for that. There is a definite place, you know, for that sort of rental. And I don't mean to bring that down. That's just not my market. I know what my market is. If you know what your market is and it's upper end, then you definitely will find that strong visuals will support your premium pricing. And that's where you need to take your media. There's another component of the pricing that we haven't touched on yet at all, and that is licensing. When someone gets MLS, you know, home for sale photography, they're getting those images for use on the MLS for up to 1 year. They're getting lower quality images. They're getting images that are done overnight. And that necessitates a less expensive price because the market just doesn't support longer edit times or higher rates. Airbnb, on the other hand, is a commercial market where the value of your images is really dictated by how much you charge for your nightly rental. And the higher your nightly rental, the more valuable high quality pictures have to you. So it's not a matter of, oh, a picture is worth $10. No, a picture is worth how much value it brings to you. An Airbnb costs more because it has more value to you. Let's talk about licensing. That's something we haven't gotten into either. MLS licensing is for up to 1 year. What that means is you can use that image for up to 1 year until that licensing closes off. You may or may not realize this, but when you hire a photographer, you're not buying the pictures, you're not buying the actual images, you're buying a license to use those images. It's much like when you go to iTunes on Apple and you download and pay for Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. You are paying $1.25 to use that song on your iPhone or iPad. You are not buying the song. The Beatles are not selling you that song for $1.25. You're buying a usage of that song. It's the same with photography. You're not buying the picture, you're buying the use of that picture. And just like $1.25 is fine for personal use on an iPad, what we charge MLS is fine for that usage. When your usage goes to a commercial use like Airbnb, where you are actively making money based on the use of those images, the license fee goes up, and that is reflected in the cost of Airbnb licensing. Typically, I will license Airbnb photography for 3 to 5 years. That's an increase in the length of the photography usage, so the cost goes up there too. But you do need to realize that at the end of that license period, you may no longer use those images. They are not yours to use. And while I'm on the topic, I might as well just go on and let you know that if you've had someone come in and stage or do the interior design of your Airbnb, they may not use the images at all. My images are licensed to you for your use on Airbnb, VRBO, and for related web use like that. You can use them on your website. You can use them on Instagram and Facebook to promote your property. What you may not do is give them to your interior designer or to your stager and say, hey, use these to promote your business. That is not included in your license. If they want to use these images, they need to come to me and they need to get their own separate license, just so that we're clear on that. So when all is said and done, is Airbnb luxury photography expensive? Well, yes, compared to MLS photography, it is. Compare it to a wedding photographer who charges $20,000, and I think you'll see, we're somewhere on the lower end of that scale too. And the bottom line is you have to measure what I charge versus the value you get. We've seen strong statistics that you get up to 25% more bookings per year from higher quality photography and from quality photography. And if that 25% is more than the cost of photography, I would say even over 2 years, but I would think the cost of photography should be covered by that 25% increase in 1 year. And if it is, then I would say, whatever you're paying for the photography is a bargain. If you're getting that kind of ROI, yeah, the number itself may sound big, but as a value, it's easy to okay something like that, I would think. It's marketing. It's not an expense. It's marketing your property and getting more return from your marketing than what you're getting now. So what is the value to you for the photography? If you think photography is just there to show pictures of your property, it really doesn't have much value. If you know a little bit more about marketing, I think you can see the value of having high quality pictures to represent your property. And to back up, when you say I'm charging this much per night and you've got really horrible pictures, A is not equaling B. But when you charge a premium for your property and you have premium quality photography, people are going to look at that and say, oh, I see why I'm paying that much. I want that. I want what these pictures are showing me. Then there's immense value in getting new photography. So don't think of luxury photography as a cost. Think of it as a conversion tool, as part of your marketing, as what you need to get out there and compete at a higher level. The right visuals will save you money, save you time, save you hassle, and bring you more money in return. So it isn't just about getting the right photographer. It's about staging your property the right way too. And that's what our next episode is going to deal with. Also, just so that you know, I do have a staging guide, and there is a link down in the description below that should help you get your property ready. But that's what our whole next episode is about, and I hope you'll watch it. And if you want to get that and all the other episodes, like, subscribe, and hopefully respond if you have questions or comments. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Dave Coach, and may your next shoot be your best shoot.